today. Appreciate you guys getting on the call. Out of respect for our student athletes and staff today, today's Zoom call is going to stay on this topic and not go into any additional topics. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan to give an opening statement, and then we'll take your questions. Thank you very much. Dan?
Thank you, Jeff, and good afternoon, everybody. Today I made the very, very difficult decision to discontinue the sponsorship of our men's track and field program effective June of 2021. I did this after consultation with President Clements and our board of trustees. This circumstance affects 51 student athletes, 26 of whom receive aid, and there are about 25 men's walk-ons. There are 7 full-time coaches and 6 coaches and 1 operations person, all of whom have their contracts through June 30th of 2021. First and foremost, our student athletes will compete this year. Our men's student athletes will compete in the indoor and outdoor track season this year. And most importantly, those student athletes who are on financial aid will be able to continue their Clemson education at the financial aid level that they currently have. We tried to do this today face to face. We talked to our coaches. We talked to head coach Mark Elliott. We then talked to our assistant coaches. We then talked to our student athletes. We also had another group of staff talk to our women's student athletes, a program that will remain and one that we know will continue to have success. We've also sent out letters to the parents of the affected student athletes. This is never an easy thing to do, and it wasn't done quickly. It was done out of looking at the best long-term interest of our program. While this decision comes during significant financial challenges during the ongoing pandemic, these challenges were only one of the factors that led to this decision. There are several factors associated with this, and you guys have gotten all this through our community letter and our release. But it's about our gender equity and Title IX compliance, our financial positioning amongst our students and staff, and local and national interest from the sport. This $2 million plus savings is going to be reinvested into other athletic department initiatives, including our remaining Olympic sports, to help provide additional financial stability moving forward. Our world of intercollegiate athletics right now is facing some uncertain times. And not only with the pandemic that we're working through right now, but into the future as it relates to some legal challenges and changes in how we do business. And we're not immune to that. We want to make sure that the student athletes that we have here right now continue to receive an incredible experience here at Clemson. Those who decide to remain will have available to them all the things that are available to them now: academics, nutrition, strength and conditioning, mental health help, early registration, etc. So I want everybody to know and understand that this is not something that we did overnight. This was a long process, and I firmly believe, as does our staff and President Clements, and in communication with our board, that this decision, while very difficult for right now, is something that we need to do in the best long-term interests of Clemson. I want to thank Coach Elliott and his staff for how well they have handled this difficult news. Again, we will continue to have a women's program, and one that we look forward to having great success in. And to those student athletes and to their parents, I know this is very difficult, but know that we'll continue to support their students as long as they're here at Clemson. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Dan, it's Trevor Gross from CUTigers.com. Obviously, Clemson men's track with a rich tradition, including Olympic gold medalists. Will you revisit this in the future? And if so, any idea how soon that might be?
You know, I would say to that, and you're exactly right about the rich tradition of Clemson track. They're a very important part and will always be a very important part of our athletic history. But for the foreseeable future, this decision is final, and we'll move forward with the 16 varsity sport offerings that we will have come July of this year. 16 is the NCAA minimum. So we'll continue to have that group of 16 sports represent Clemson.
Hey, Dan, it's David Hood with TigerNet. Obviously, the track facility just got an upgrade, and I'm sure the women will make good use of that. But is there any thought about maybe using that area for other sports or letting other sports, take part over there?
You know, David, we really haven't looked at that. It's a track facility. The indoor track that we just put in about 3 years ago is an incredible, made that indoor facility and an incredible opportunity for hosting indoor meets. We have not looked at allowing that area to be utilized by anything other than women's track and field, and certainly for the rest of this year, our men's program.
Hey, Dan, this is Matt. I know you said this wasn't something that was done overnight and that there was a lot of thought that went into it. Can you kind of give us an idea of when this first started being explored and when you first started having conversations that this might take place?
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. I mean, I think it was maybe 8 or 10 months ago. It was just prior to the pandemic that we got together as a staff and we started to look at, what is the next, because we had just turned into 2020. What are the next 10 years of Clemson athletics like? And, what should be our mix? Where are we and where should we be providing our resources for programs to be successful? Can we sustain the program as we have it today, given the understanding of the cost and some of the uncertainty associated with NCAA intercollegiate athletics right now? And then as we moved forward into the summertime, we looked at a lot of different options. But at the end of the day, this was the one that we felt made the most sense for Clemson right now. And it's very, very difficult to discontinue a sport, but we did not see that we would have the ability to add any other sports and making sure that we were utilizing our facilities and our resources in the proper way. So it was about an 8 to 9 month process.
Dan, this is Larry Williams. Hope you're doing okay. I asked this only because football is related to the overall bottom line with the athletics department. What is the projected shortfall with football attendance this year with the difference of having such a reduced capacity?
Well, thanks, Larry. I appreciate it. We don't look at our sports on an individual basis. We look at how our entire athletic program is performing. We're probably at a circumstance where we have not been able to receive about $36 million worth of revenue this year through ticket sales and other associated and ancillary revenue opportunities. So our revenue side is down $36 million. As you know, we've taken for this year some incredible steps as it relates to reducing expenditures. So that number is right now about $14 million. So our gap, and then you have to add in some of the costs associated with the pandemic, specific COVID costs that hopefully will never reappear again. The gap that we're looking at is between $24 and $27 million that we're going to have to deal with towards the end of the year. And, that we still have some time. We still have some things that need to happen for us to get to that number. But between 24 and 27, so we have talked about a $25 million gap that we'll have to deal with between now and the end of June.
Dan, it's Trevor again. Are there other programs under consideration right now, or do you think these will be the only cuts?
These, as we sit right now, come July, we will be offering 16 sports, and that is the NCAA minimum. So I do not, we're not looking at any additional cuts of varsity sport offerings.
And can you update us on where things are with the renovations for Memorial Stadium, and is that getting affected at all by the pandemic and those things?
Matt, I'd love to answer the question. I really don't want to go off track here today. This is really about the student athletes and our track program. Give me a holler next week and we can chat about that.
Any other questions for Dan?
Dan, this is Ryan Fenton with Flow Sports. I saw your note or your letter that went out, but just I guess wanted to ask the question about fundraising for the program, and will that be an option?
Well, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that question. You know, at this point, no. You know, the annual savings that we're looking at is about $2.5 million. And if you throw that into an endowment calculation, something that perpetually would give back that amount of money, the endowment total would need to be about $60 million. So, you know, we're not looking at additional fundraising opportunities, you know, for this particular program to keep it in place.
And just a quick follow-up, if you don't mind. I know there's been a few other universities that have gone through this and have kind of come out and said the same, and then have gone back on that, and programs have been reinstated. Why is that different here?
I think not knowing all the details associated with some of those other programs, you know, whether it's track or any other program that may have been cut in recent months. Every institution is different. The scale is different as it relates to the dollars needed and necessary to continue to fund the program. So we feel very resolute right now in what our decision is. We're not happy about it, but given where we are as a program, as a university, we're going to move forward with the 16 sports.
And I know you said the money will be reinvested into the athletic department initiatives. Can you give a little detail or provide any insight, or do you know yet on maybe how some of that money will be used?
Well, I used athletic department initiatives and our remaining Olympic sports because, and the only reason I put that nomenclature in there is our primary objective would be to have these reinvested into the Olympic sports that remain: women's track, our soccer, golf, tennis, baseball, softball. But I put that other caveat in there because there may be things thrust upon us through various court cases or other items that we can't anticipate right now. So I didn't want to just say that it was going to be reinvested back into Olympic sports, knowing that there could be other factors that could come forward that could move us in a different direction, at least in the short term.
Would that be like name, image, and likeness, that kind of stuff?
Could be that. It could be the Alston case. Could be NCAA shortfalls if for some reason they don't have the NCAA basketball tournament again. There's a lot of different pieces that are still out there that are uncertain.
Any more questions for Dan related to track and field?
Hey, Dan, this is Will, Clemson Insider. Just wanted to ask, I know with track and field, it's been used a lot with other sports to recruit athletes. How much consideration went into that, especially with, football has used it, I know, in the past and stuff like that to get, to entice a guy like CJ Spiller to come to Clemson? How much consideration went into that?
I mean, it was something that we talked about, but Will, it just hasn't happened that often. It was really not a feeder sport, much like it would have been 15 or 20 years ago when you had multi-sport athletes. And some people may say that's a bad thing, that doesn't occur anymore, but the specialization of of student athletes now is really not what it, the multi-sport student athlete just isn't today what it was maybe a generation ago.
Take one or two more.
Dan, I know diversity and inclusion have been important efforts for a lot of people, including Clemson this year. As you guys look to make decisions across the sports, how did you guys look at this and the effect that would have on the opportunities at Clemson?
No, it's a great point, and certainly something that we looked at. It was about a 50-50 mix when you throw the entire program together, from a Caucasian to people of color within the program. It's certainly something that we need to look at. As it relates to the number on campus, it was a very, very small percentage, less than 2% of the people of color on our track team were represented on campus as it compared to the two. So our whole campus and certainly our athletic program are committed to racial and ethnic diversity, and we will continue to do that moving into the future.
And how did the men's program for track and cross country compare on that front compared to other programs that you looked at Clemson?
We had a roster of 51 individuals, and there were 22 African Americans and 6 other races and 23 Caucasians. So that made up our roster.
Okay, anything further?
One more I get. I'll jump in if no one has one. When you guys are looking across the savings, kind of the cost savings here, how does the cost of the track and field and cross country program, when you look at a per athlete cost, compare to other programs that will stay at Clemson?
It's a great question. I don't have that metric at hand, but it is something that we need to. It's one of the sports that does not provide revenue back, so that's a major. That will not help that calculation that you just talked about, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing our resources in the best way that we can. By cutting the men's track and field and cross country program, that's certainly helping us as it relates to issues of gender equity and Title IX for down the road. But as it relates to what the cost per student athlete is, I don't know what that is as it would compare to the cost, for example, of a golfer or a tennis player or a soccer player or a baseball player.
All right, thank you all very much. We have kept a recording. If you'd like an additional recording, please reach out to me directly. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.